Yeah. Actually, let me have a look. I'll let you know what we had. I should have that somewhere in here in my records. You're still going to give it a few minutes. We're at what, 93 people now? Yep, February, and then we took a break and resumed online in May. And that was Thornton Tomasetti, Best of Hackathon. I just reached out to Nick earlier today to see if he wants to do that again. The hackathon this year was obviously also online. I'm not quite sure what came out of it, if there's something interesting that they want to present, or if it, couldn't tell you right now. But hopefully they'll have something neat. Usually it's kind of a fan favorite on the nerdy side. So yeah, for those of you who are new here, well, again, there's somebody not muted.
But I can look for it within the file that we.
Yeah, if folks, it'd be terrific if you could mute yourself.
Yeah, I can look for that.
I'm trying to find a person, but it's just too many people.
Yeah, I'm finding that those who are not muted usually show up, at least for me here, the unmuted ones are showing up at the top of the list.
Oh, okay.
And then there's two groups, unmuted at the top of the list,
oh, you're right.
alphabetically, and then muted bottom of the list alphabetically.
You're right.
Okay, I'll have one last look over our names here, see if I recognize anybody, and then we'll get started. And Serge is here. Hey, Serge.
Hey, Andre, good to see you.
We've got Randy Deutsch here. Excellent. Glad to see you. Usually we want you to be a presenter here at our show.
Thanks, Andre. Look forward to it.
Don't say that lightly. I'm really have that putting my finger in there and trying to get people in. I'm kind of relentless that way. All right, we've got Jeremy.
Very good to see you.
Hey.
Hey, you will be recording this, right?
Yes, we will be recording this.
Thank you.
Somebody, once I'm done speaking and I turn it over to Marcelo, somebody please remind me to hit record.
Got it.
One of those things that, you know.
Hey, Andre, good to see you.
It's too easy to forget, and then
Thanks,
20 minutes
Andre.
in, like,
Look forward to it.
Andre, good to see you. All right.
All right, so let's get started, shall we? So we are the New York City REVIT users group.
Should I record? Start record?
Yeah, let's record Marcelo, the entire front.
Oh, okay.
Front 10 minutes. I don't know. Nobody's gonna watch that. Everybody's gonna skip over that anyway. Welcome everybody, New York City REVIT users group. First meeting of 2021, still online, with a whole slew of new members and 99 participants right now. And we are excited. This is, other than the one VR event we had with 110 people, this is the single most popular event we've ever had. Actually, the VR thing doesn't count for 110 because about 20 of those were vendors. So this is the single most popular event that we've ever hosted in our 10-12-year existence. Thank you, Marcelo, for making this happen. Marcelo also, the moment he posted this online on his LinkedIn and Twitter, we got about 150 new members since then within the last 6 weeks. Marvelous, excellent. We hope you'll come back. We tend to do this, you know, on a regular basis. So let me share my screen and go into our opening slides. They kind of guide me a little bit. As you can hear, we're a little bit of a casual group. And I'll get a little more into that. So today, Marcelo Scambului, I've tried to say that. I've recently learned how to say Saglamburi. A client of mine, it looks like the same letters, just like Italians seem to play boggle with their last name. They just take the same letters and rearrange them. So Marcelo, forgive me if I just botched your last name. Marcelo was voted the best speaker at Autodesk University last year, a couple of weeks ago. Absolutely exciting. He will present today some cutting edge hacks, how to get Grasshopper, Dynamo, and working together within Revit. A little bit of Rhino Inside, I think, is going to come up. I'll probably dig a little bit and lean a little bit on his book that he recently published. Next. There we go. Our sponsors, we still like to mention them, even though right now we're not relying on them, but they have been very helpful to us over the past and faithful to us over the past 12 years. Microsoft Resources, Imagine an AEC Resource, and Consulting for Architects, who usually sponsor our food and provide other helping hands and services. And then our spaces, when we are out in the physical world, assorted offices and showrooms around town. The credits are usually provided by Microsoft Resources. This time that hasn't panned out. AIA is never really happy about software presentations and handing out credits for software presentations. The webcast is coming from Ilkay and her company Gen X, BIM Consultancy. So if you have any BIM consultant needs, reach out to us, reach out to Ilkay. She's always happy to help and no more than capable. We're receiving more support from Spatial Ops, ARCAD, AEC Resource, and our friends at the CSI Metro chapter here in New York. This is us, myself, Andre, Robert and James, our previous presidents, and then we have Leonard and Snigdha, who couldn't be here today, Ilkay, who we just talked about, Ian Atkins with Populous, and I just saw somebody else from Populous just signed up. And we reached 100 people. We have 100 attendees. Thank you. Robert Yori is here right now. He was the one connecting us with Marcelo. And Alfred, who usually helps us with posting this entire show online so that we can look at the recording later. What's in the pipeline? In April, we're going to do what's new in Revit. I think most of us have probably heard that BIM 360 is going to get rebranded again and rejigged and reshoveled. So Roger from Microsoft will help us go through that a little bit and give us a bit of an overview of what's in there.
Look at the
And
transition. I sent you the comments on the table of contents, right?
Mhm.
See this? It's all like
Yeah,
Juan,
because there's
Juan
subsections.
Carlos, can you please
yeah,
mute,
but
mute
the
yourself?
numbers still should align at the end.
Ilkay,
That's
can
what
you
I mean.
mute
It's like
Juan
no,
Carlos?
here it's like this is us, right?
Mhm.
It's only one page and then a bunch of this, and then you already come to the sub-consultants. There's no like division that they have the sub-consultants, which is fine.
Okay, evidently he has
But,
muted me.
All of a sudden, see this bunch of photos.
Okay, then I'll take that off.
Take that off, I think, because this one you cannot take. You can
No.
even take that off.
Sorry,
No.
people.
But this is fine. It's
Mhm.
glue mark. I think this is the glue mark, right?
Mhm.
See, this is fine because it's just one page.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't want them to overcome us.
Oh, I found the mute button. That was the downside of me having two logins here. log in through 2 devices. Apologies for that. And now obviously my phone is confused. So. Technology. Bunch of tech experts, and we can't make this work, can we? Can you guys still hear me? Okay, Bob is giving me a thumbs up. So in April, what's new in and around Revit and Autodesk and this entire universe? In June, we'll have our book end of BIM in Academia. We started this in September. Actually, we started BIM in Academia last summer with a general overview of what's going on there. In September, some of the teachers, Phil Bernstein, Leonard Anderson, and Charlie Portelli, were introducing their aspirations for this upcoming semester. And we hope that in June, we're going to talk to some of their students to see if all the aspirations they had actually came to fruition. So it'll be hopefully a little bit of a mix between professors talking and students showing off what they've done. We're currently trying to figure that out. As I just mentioned, Best of Hackathon, the Thornton Tomasetti Hackathon in the fall. We usually have that. There's a few other things we're currently considering. If you have any ideas, let us know. Drop us a line. There's an email address at the beginning. Drop us a line over the meetup. Doesn't really matter what venue, just don't send carrier pigeons. And let us know what you want to hear. We can sit here all day and talk into a monitor. This is not about Bob or Marcelo or me talking. This is about our membership and our membership being interested in this. Clearly today is a really good one. So let us know what you are interested in. And if you have something to share, Randy Deutsch, let us know what you want to share, and we'll set up a date and we'll get you out into this community. Other than that, Bob, do you want to introduce Marcelo? I think you've known him the longest, right? I think you're best introducing him.
Well, sure. Happy to do that. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for showing up. Just to echo Andre's comments, it's wonderful to see so many, not only so many people here, but so many new faces to the group. Definitely an upside of going virtual at these meetings, although I miss you all in person. I'm really thrilled to be able to announce Marcelo tonight. Marcelo and I met, I can't even tell you, I think it was 10 years ago, I think. Marcelo can correct me if he's wrong. He's shaking his head, so I'm good. I went to a conference about 10 years ago. It was the first or second RTC event that was in North America. And I watched a presentation that this absolutely amazing, engaging, knowledgeable person put together that still ranks amongst my favorite presentations that I've ever seen. His presentation was around how to develop a model and transform it into a gaming engine and all the tips and tricks that you should look out for while doing it. The thing that was so amazing about it, beyond his energy, his enthusiasm, his somehow he managed to master this seemingly impossible task. At least at the time it was impossible. But the thing that engaged me the most was he really approached the concept of the presentation wholeheartedly. He did his entire presentation, every slide that he had, he buried as a little piece of treasure in what would be like a first-person shooter game. So, he dove down into the ocean and then he found a treasure chest down the bottom and he opened it up and there was a slide with some of his key points. Then he got out and he ran a marathon and he did this and, he like, whatever, he picked up a flamethrower and he burned down something and then, there was another slide that appeared. So it wasn't just how to do these things. He really immersed himself in the presentation and immersed us all in what he was trying to communicate. So anyway, I had to meet the guy after that. So I did. And I'd like to think we're friends. We've been friends ever since. So hopefully I haven't made you nervous or anything, Marcelo, but it really made an impression on me, obviously. So I'm sure many of you have seen him. Obviously, he's top-rated speaker at AU, and I'm really looking forward to hear what he has to say tonight. So take it away. Thanks, Marcelo.
Okay, thank you. Robert, I didn't know you were in that class. Yeah. Great. Hello. Thank you for those kind words, making me a little misty here. So, hello, everybody. I'm Marcelo. Thank you for joining me. And New York Revit User Group, thank you for hosting. This is exciting. I'm in my remote location. I'm actually on semi-vacation, so I'm in a different area. But anyway, usually I have a different backdrop. But anyway, okay, so the show must go on. Okay, welcome everybody. We've got an awesome topic. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to start rocking and rolling, okay? Let's see here. Can everyone hear me? Can you hear me? Just fine? Okay.
I can hear you perfectly.
Great, you can see my screen now?
Sure can.
Okay, awesome, let's do it. Okay, welcome everybody. We got a lot of people here. Now I can see the chat window. Normally I have two screens, but since I'm remote, I only have, I guess we're all remote. But anyway, I have just my one monitor with me, but I can juggle around. We can get this done. So if you have anything to say, comment, throw it in the questions, the chat. We'll all be monitoring it. That's not a problem. We've got, wow, 100 people in here. That is awesome. Okay, welcome everybody. Whew. Okay, cutting edge hack, Grasshopper and Dynamo working together in Revit. What does that actually mean? We're gonna go over that throughout the evening. I'm in Southern California, so it's not quite evening yet, but wherever you're at, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so what do we got here? Let's see. Make sure I can. All right, so what do I know about these topics? Well, I actually wrote a book on it, on Dynamo and Grasshopper. And so if there's any professors here, I know Professor Randy Deutsch is here. If you want to learn something, then teach a class on it or write a book about it. So that's how I know a lot about this particular topic. If there's any questions at any time, please throw them out in the chat, or you can even turn on your mic. I don't really care. Yell it out, no problem. You're going to want to stick around to the end because from beginning to end, this is going to be really exciting. If you think you know about Grasshopper and Dynamo working with Revit, I want everyone to open their mind because there's going to be a lot of new things I'm going to be introducing here in this presentation as we go forward. Things you can think about, and it's not just about the software, it's also about the individual. So we'll get into that a little bit later. Bob Yori, you did a great job introducing me, so I don't need to spend a lot of time on this slide. It's just, I have been in the industry now for 22 years. I am a licensed structural engineer. I'm the director of advanced technology at a structural engineering firm called John Martin Associates. I do time to time do some consulting and training as well. These are some of the projects I've worked on in the past. You may recognize that one, bottom left. That's the Walt Disney Concert Hall in downtown Los Angeles by Geary Partners. That's also his new residence in Playa del Rey on the right. These are some of the families I've built on the bottom left. If anyone haven't seen, there's an elephant and a cow. This is all in Revit. There's a goat, a rhino. We'll get into that later. A piece of telehandler equipment. So anyway, the idea is I tend to work kind of on the extreme edges of software, and that's where I tend to kind of think. And so this presentation will kind of be like that. Thinking about how we can use technology and push it to its limits to kind of learn its boundaries and basically makes our lives a little better. There you can see I got a Twitter handle. I'll go into that a little bit later. My podcast, I have a blog site as well. And Bob did mention, yeah, I did win the first place speaker award, AU 2020. I was really excited about that. I have won that award 8 years, the past 8 years, and some other awards. So it's not me, it's actually the support I get from the community, like all of you. I really couldn't do it without all of you. So thank you very much for that. Now let's start rocking and rolling, and you're gonna need to participate, and I can see the chat, so everyone get ready. Rhino Inside Revit, I guess. Oh yeah, very good. We'll get into that a little later, yeah. Okay, so what's the problem in our industry? One of the problems is interoperability, right? And so I better turn this chat here. One is interoperability, yeah? You can turn on your cameras too if we go to the camera area. If anyone wants to, wave their hands, or I can see emotional reaction as well here. Okay, so what's the problem with our industry? A lot of times with software is interoperability, right? Well, let's specifically talk about Rhinoceros and Grasshopper and Dynamo and Revit. Okay, we'll focus on that. We could have a larger academic conversation about other software, but we're going to stay focused today and talk about interoperability between those two softwares. Yeah? All right, so Everyone, go ahead and chat in a yes or a smiley face or something if this is you. In your office, in a lot of architecture firms, even engineering firms, a lot of the design and the 3D modeling in the iterative process doesn't necessarily happen in the BIM software. It happens in another 3D modeling software, like Rhinoceros. Is that true for anybody here? We got 100 people. Hopefully at least get one yes. Yeah, okay, Jeremy's raising his hand. I know you. Robert, yeah. Okay, yes-ish. Okay, yeah, Angela, I hear you. I hear you. If you want to shout out, say something and I'll give you a shout out. Okay, very good. But what's the problem with that? What do we typically document with? We typically document with Revit, right? Why? Well, it's a great BIM software. Yeah, I use the word great. Good for 3D coordination, good for documentation, right? But that tends to happen later, right? So early on, you get these 3D models that you build in Rhinoceros, and later on, you have to be able to document the thing, right? So how do you, it's not done in the same software, right? Rhinoceros is done by McNeil, and Revit is done by Autodesk, right? So what's the problem? We got to get from one spot to another, right? I mean, of course you can go back and forth, right? But that's the problem we're plagued with in our industry. Does anyone have an issue with this, or has everyone already solved this problem? Let's see if there's any issues there, any headaches, or has everyone got this problem solved? Yes, no, no one? Not solved. Okay, Jeremy, very good. Migraine, nearly everyone has an issue with it. Okay, Bob, very good. Okay, so Bob's talking for the whole group, awesome. Okay, so it's 2021. Why is this still a problem, right? Okay, so I'm just laying the groundwork. We're going somewhere with this, okay, everybody? All right, so what have we had to do in the past? It's sad, it really is, but this is what happens. We have to sometimes remodel from scratch, right? Because we can't just go into Revit and say, add Rhino, right? And everything's perfect. We just don't have that, right? It's also not done in the same software. Nate, okay, good. There are add-ins, I'll get to that, right? As CVS, yeah, we'll get to that. Those are imports. But does anyone model from scratch? Come on, I know you're out there. No one? No one, okay, maybe so. I do, I'll admit it. Okay, what else do you need to do? Import, I saw CVS, okay, that's one, right? Pass it through another maybe database or import, DWG import, right? The problem with this is it becomes unintelligent. Another one is there's add-ins out there, right, that do this, depending on what software you're using. Conveyor by Nate Miller, there's also others, right? Mantis Shrimp, things like that. But these are all solutions that we're kind of using in our industry that aren't quite as seamless as we would like it, right? So is everyone on board with me so far? These are kind of the issues. I'm just setting up what the problems are here in our industry. Yeah. Any questions so far? Okay, good. We're moving fast. This is awesome. So what do we do? On board. Nice, Andre. What do we do? Well, there's a GIF now in our industry. Can anyone guess what it is? Here, this is a hint. Someone guessed it earlier. Andre mentioned it too. Come on now, we got to get, this is virtual, but we get everyone involved. Come on now, anyone guess what this is? Rhino inside, that's right. This was a rhinoceros that I modeled inside of Revit. It's just, anyway, it's Rhino inside, okay? What does that really mean? What does Rhino inside really mean? There's a lot of talks out there on Rhino inside. I've probably easily done at least 10 of them over the last year on Rhino inside. We're going to take a slight spin on it, but this is one technology that can help you solve your problems. Why is that? The McNeil folks, the ones who make Rhinoceros, I tend to call Rhino Rhinoceros because when I say Rhino and Revit and I keep saying them back and forth, sometimes I start switching them because they're one syllable words with an R. And so I'm going to try to call Rhino Rhinoceros just for everyone, so you know. The McNeil folks said, okay, why don't we do this? Why don't we take the entire Rhino program and all of the things that come with it, including Grasshopper, and we'll just shove it inside of Revit. And what does that mean by shove it inside of it? That means we'll actually make it an add-in, okay? So now that's what's happening. So we have this new tech called Rhino inside Revit, and it's exactly that. It's Rhinoceros inside Revit. It is now an add-in. It's an elaborate add-in. It's probably one of the most elaborate add-ins I could think of out there, but it's basically an add-in, okay? And what that allows you to do is start to solve some of these interoperability issues. Don't worry, I'll keep an eye on the time. Andre, we can go till the hour. I get about 30 more minutes or so.
Go. Keep going.
Okay. Okay, so let's look at this, right? Rhino inside Revit. Now we have rhinoceros and grasshopper running inside of Revit. So what does that mean? That means now if we have a rhinoceros model, and we'll bring this one up a little bit later, but just about anything could be inside your rhinoceros model. But let's consider this project. This is some kind of surface that would represent topography inside of rhinoceros. Maybe we've got a speed ramp here, we've got some parking, maybe a bathroom or some kind of utility shed, and then we've got another trail and we've got another little lookout up here. This is just a fictitious project I made. But anyway, the idea is, if we have this rhinoceros project, how do we get it into a meaningful way inside of Revit? Well, here's just one simple example of how to use this technology. You use Grasshopper as the conduit, okay? So what you can do in this particular case is basically you could grab this surface in Rhinoceros using Grasshopper. This surface is called a grep inside of Rhinoceros. And then what you do is you pass it through Grasshopper, and these new Revit components that are inside of Grasshopper, that are inside Rhino inside Revit, and you can actually build native Revit topography. And these are actually dynamically linked. So if you look down on this image on the bottom, this is actually Revit. And do you see this brown surface here? This is actually Revit topography. It is not an unintelligent SAT import. It is not a DWG import. It is actually native Revit topography element that's being driven by the geometry of Rhinoceros. Okay, so the idea here is that Rhino now runs inside of Revit. Use Grasshopper as a conduit. You can bring in meaningful information into Revit. So everyone kind of get the basic concept of Rhino inside Revit. This is kind of only part of the topic we're going to go over, but are there any kind of questions about that? This is only one tiny example, but it's exactly what it is. It's Rhino inside Revit. We good? Okay. If you need to know more about it, you could go to the McNeil website. There's plenty of resources there. You could just Google it. A lot of people have done talks on it. I've done a podcast on it as well. So there's a lot of information out there. If you want to get started, you do need a Rhino 7 license. And that'll give you access to the Rhino inside Revit plugin into Revit. Okay. Is it always topography that is imported? Good question, Peter. No, it is not always topography. In this example, it's topography with only 6 components. I need to do it, but it could be a floor, it could be a wall, it could be structural framing, it could be columns, it could be a road, perhaps, right? So the idea here is that it's, let me see if I have, right? Because before, a lot of times when we were doing imports, they were just meaningless information, right? Just dimension to it, right? All right. So things in sliced bread, yeah, absolutely. But let's just kind of be realistic about it too. I'm familiar with language as well. Similar to what Rhino inside Revit is not. Grasshopper environment. You can't just take Rhino geometry and stick it into a component. I called this Rhino to Revit super component, where all your Revit geometry moves to the correct category and converts your document and converts your geometry perfectly every time, right? Then you have no RFIs, you have no change orders on the project, right? This is not true, okay? This is not true, okay? I just want everyone to understand that, right? It's an easy button, but you need to make it that way. Reference, right? So everyone clear on that? what I tend to do when I talk about new tech is everyone thinks it's going to solve all their problems and they're never going to need the issues. It just takes a little work. You know what I like? I like to think about it this way. I like to think about Rhino inside Revit as a piece of gold in your office. And in that way, you will be successful. Okay. So that's just the way I like to think about it. And that's what the McNeil folks did with Rhino inside Revit is they wanted to give you a framework at which to build off of so that you could mold it and shape it later, but you do need to ask yourself critical questions as you use this tech. Okay, link to Revit. If the change, yeah, okay. Question was, what about the changes? Let me just say this. What happens with this technology, if you're not familiar with it, this kind of talk I was kind of just giving a brief summary, but there's a lot more elaborate explanations of update the topo surface inside of Revit. Did that answer your question, Professor? Okay. All right. So now what? Let me show you. I don't have a lot of time to do live demos, and I normally do that, but let me just show you at least a little bit of something live. I just want to show you when you use this technology, how you need to be critically thinking, and then we'll get into a bunch of other things, right, including dialogue. Okay, so let's just look here. This is actually the rhinoceros model that I had open earlier. If you are inside of Revit, there is a new tab here called Rhinoceros. If you have the Rhino inside Revit plugin, okay, and then it gives you access to all this functionality. This one would be the opening of Rhinoceros model, and this one gives you access to Grasshopper. Okay, now I have Rhinoceros open right now. This is called Rhinoceros Inside. So it means it's open as an add-in through Revit. If you can see, I don't know if you can, if you can see my icons down on the bottom, you don't see a rhinoceros icon. Does everyone not, maybe a head nod, no rhinoceros icon down here, right? Okay, that's because it's running inside of Revit. So if I were to close Revit, it would close Rhinoceros Inside. Okay, just so you know, it's running inside, it's an add-in. Okay, so look at this particular model. Let's, this is probably very simple, but I'm sure you have more elaborate ones, of course, right? But let's just talk kind of in simple terms, right? You wouldn't want to just take this whole thing and just say, bring it into Revit, right? You need to make critical decisions as you move forward, right? Okay, this particular surface in Rhinoceros is a BREP. It's on a particular layer. What is this going to manifest itself when I send it to Revit? Is it going to be a topography surface? Probably, okay? Now, what about this? When I send this to Revit, what should it be, right? Now, why are you asking yourself these questions? Because Revit doesn't know. If you send Rhinoceros elements to Revit, it's going to say, okay, what category do you want it to be in? What type do you want it to be, right? Because Revit asks these questions because it's a BIM software, right? It has meaningful information behind each entity. So if you're going to be bringing elements from Rhinoceros into Revit, you need to have these critical questions. So what would this be? Is this parking? You could bring the element in and give it a road category. Oh, you said road, Zach. I'm sorry, I missed you. Yeah, okay, very good. So the point is you don't need to bring in everything, right? And you need to strategically think about that, right? Can you purchase Revit with, oh, I got a question. Can you purchase Revit with Rhino? Holy smokes. Okay, this is coming up. Listen, everybody, this is how it works. If you want to get Rhino inside Revit, you must own a license of Rhinoceros version 7. And you must own a license of Revit between version 2019 to 2021. And that's it. That should answer that question. Okay. All right. So anyway, and you could just bring portions in. You could just bring the topography in if you want. You could just bring in the columns if you want, right? So the point is it's just not blind, bringing stuff in. Okay, I hammered that to death. All right, let's move on. All right, so let's kind of look and see how this goes, and then we'll kind of get into some other things. Okay, so cool. Everyone on board with us? Andre, we got it on board, hopefully. Critical decisions need to be made early. Okay, I'm going to talk to you really quick about how you bring elements in, okay? So here's our element again. Here's our Rhinoceros model. There's kind of 4 ways to do it, and I'll go over this quickly so we can get on to other things. Like I said, meaningful information, right? If you bring something into Revit and you can't dimension to it, you can't cut sections through it, then why bring it in? Well, maybe you want to do it for visualization. Maybe you want to bring it to a game engine for visualizing. Okay, that's good. Then you probably want to use this first method. I call it the quick import, okay? You basically take the geometry, it brings it in as what we call a direct shape, okay? It just puts it on a generic category. Next down from that is you can bring in quick geometry, but you can assign a category to it. So maybe the road you'd want to do. It's just quick geometry, comes on in there as a direct shape. And a direct shape is basically a generic geometry within Revit. It's kind of what it is. It's a relatively new thing inside of Revit, but you can assign a category to it. So you could assign the road category. Okay, the next kind of level of bringing something in is you could actually take an element within Rhinoceros and you can build it inside of a family template that you choose. And then you can load that family template in. So maybe it's a door and you build it in the door family and then you bring that particular family in, or a wall. I mean, not a wall, I'm sorry. Or maybe a structural beam, okay? And then the final way to bring it in is where you're actually building it as native Revit geometry. So I'm just giving you a summary here, and we'll go over some specific examples. But this is kind of basically how it works. Why do you need to understand this? Because you have to ask yourself these kind of critical questions. Okay, any questions so far about this? I know I'm moving a little quick, but well, I guess I should ask, how's my pace? Are we good? Yeah, okay. Milo says good. All right, get to it, Marcelo. Okay, so we already went over this one, right? I like to do these one-page summaries. So this is how to do topography, right? If you had topography inside of Rhinoceros, how do you bring it into Revit? That's meaningful. Well, it only takes a few nodes. Basically, this is Grasshopper. So what you do is these are the steps you'd go through. Okay, you would open up Revit. You would open up your Rhinoceros inside model, which would be this one. Okay, you would then place down this node, which is a generic surface selection node out of Grasshopper. Okay, this basically adds points to divide the surface up, and then you basically recreate the topography in Revit using this node. So this particular node is beautiful. It creates a topo relevant element via Grasshopper points. Okay, so that's how you would do this. And these kind of things live if you were to go back to Revit. These things actually live if we were going to look at Grasshopper. These things live in Grasshopper under this Revit tab. Okay, this is new kid on the block. Okay, if you have certain add-ins, it would just show up right here as Revit. Okay, and there's over 200 components in there. Okay, and one of them is create topography. So it's that simple. I kind of like to call this plug and chug, right? So maybe you're not doing topography, I don't know, whatever. But let's go through some more examples. Okay. Okay. What if okay, so we talked about this, right? What if we had this particular element, right? Maybe we want to bring that in as a road, right? So you can actually use the road category and bring it in as what we call a direct shape. Okay, so now it would be on that category, so you can filter it, etc. You even have the ability to add material to it. You know, if you were going to do cut sections through it, that sort of thing. Okay, you could even name it. I called it straight road, but you know, whatever. You get it, right? Does this seem pretty simple to everyone? How long is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nodes. 5 nodes to get a road from Rhinoceros into Revit in a meaningful way. Yeah? Is this good stuff? Got to get something. Come on, guys. You guys. Where are we at? Where are we at? Yes? A chat? A thumbs up? Can you talk about trade-offs of direct shape? I certainly could talk about trade-offs of the direct shape. It's going to be all up to you on what type of, where you're going to float in here, okay? Now, I personally tend to use direct shape a lot. And the reason I tend to use direct shape a lot when I want to bring Rhinoceros geometry into Revit is because I want to see it in Revit and I want to be able to make sure it works, it's geometrically correct. Sometimes I'll kick it out to like Enscape or another game engine to view it. I'm not necessarily cutting sections through it or tagging it or dimensioning to it. So in that way, I use direct shapes a lot and they're very good in that case. The reason I use direct shape in this particular example that I would carry through the project on a road is because there's no road tool in Revit. That's one reason I did that. Still shocked there's a road category. Yes, you should be very shocked. I was shocked when I saw it. I'm like, wait a minute. Because you're like, wait a minute, in Revit, where's the road tool, right? I don't see a road tool in Revit. Where would it even be? Under massing and site? Anyone see a road tool in here to build a road? But there's a road category. Okay, very good. All right, good question. All right, so let's head back. So direct shapes have pros and cons. I use direct shapes for roads because I can just give it the category because I don't have a quote unquote build road tool inside of Revit. Or maybe use X, go for it. Okay, I'm showing you how to do a floor, but you know, that's the idea. You can think about this, right? And you can say, okay, well, I can replace this with something else because now I have the geometry from Rhinoceros. I can then put in Revit X element. Okay, that's the idea. And how will you know? You got to try it for yourself, right? I need to go back here. There it is, right? That's why. You want to have discussions in your office? Go for it. Should we use a floor? Maybe, right? There it is for you. Piece of gold, you use it. It'll make your lives awesome, I tell you. Okay, here's another cool one. Let's talk about those columns that were up there. Someone said 2x4, but these are columns, right? In Rhinoceros, we have columns, right? I'll show you what's even super cool now is, I don't know if anyone can see it, but Rhinoceros actually does have information where you can embed information inside of objects. They're called key value pairs. They're kind of hidden, but they're super neato. If you were to go to Rhinoceros, let me see if I can find is rhinoceros. Okay, every element, you have the ability to embed information inside of it in the user attributes, which are here. Okay, so user attributes can actually have what we call key value pairs. So you could enter in here like structural column and then give it the size. And so that's what I did in this particular example. Now, Rhino inside Revit can pull that information out of rhinoceros, and not only will you get the geometry, but you can actually pull over smart information, like I'm showing here. I don't know if there's a way to zoom into this. We'll just hack it. Okay, we'll just hack it. Then what you can do is you can actually embed that information inside of rhinoceros. Then when Grasshopper reads that information, it pulls the geometry, pulls the center lines, and will pull the key value pair. And then it can tell Revit, hey, listen, build that column, but not only that, use that type and assign it. Boom. Okay. So it's another dimension you can give to the interoperability between here. So it's something you can think about. They're called key value pairs. There's a good add-in that uses it called Elephant. They allow you to put in key value pairs kind of parametrically through Grasshopper, or you could just enter them in manually, however you want to do it. Does that mean the value needs to match the type name? That was a very good question. It doesn't have to, but it certainly could. You could just say 12 by 12, and then you could set up filters to be able to do like a lookup and then assign it. So that's not necessary. Know to use that, and how would the Rhino user know to put that in, right? We'll go over that in a little bit. I can tell you one way to do it, right? Well, virtually, or if you're in the office, the Revit user could stand up, right? Walk over to the rhinoceros user and tell them. That's one way to do it. Okay, we'll get into other ways to do it. Okay, everyone cool with this? Okay, so I've been kind of focusing on going one way, but you certainly could go the other. You could go from Revit to rhinoceros. Here's some very good examples. One is, I use this all the time. I go from Revit to rhinoceros a lot of time. Why? Because a lot of times I'll be building stairs, and I like the way Revit builds stairs better than rhinoceros builds stairs. Just gonna say that, okay? So what I do is I'll build these stairs inside of Revit, then I'll pass the geometry to rhinoceros. I'll continue building my rhinoceros geometry around my stairs, and then, kind of back and forth. So in this particular example, this particular stair is built inside of Revit and then brought into the rhinoceros environment. And then these particular walls and floor were built inside of rhinoceros. So you can start mixing and matching and have yourself a good time. I've never had any problems with geometry conversion going from Revit to rhinoceros. Here's a case in point. This right here is the rhinoceros inside of Revit. And then this is the rhinoceros inside of rhinoceros. Okay. So there's the conversion right there. So it seems to work pretty well. Are there any questions about that before we move on? Are we doing on time? Oh, we're doing awesome on time. Okay, so any questions about that? That's kind of the Rhino inside Revit technology, right? But the name of this class is Grasshopper and Dynamo. So what about Dynamo, right? What about Dynamo? Okay, this is kind of the new thing that I've been talking about. Everything I've showed you, you really could Google online and kind of find the ins and outs of Rhino inside Revit. What I want to do is get everyone kind of thinking critically about what other tools you have. And one is Dynamo. Let's talk again about the advantages of Rhinoceros and Revit. Rhinoceros is an excellent 3D modeling program. Yeah? Revit, in my opinion, is very good at documenting and 3D coordination. Okay. So we keep that in mind, right? Okay. Well, what does that mean? Well, Dynamo has been around a long time, interacting with Revit, right? So what Rhinoceros and Grasshopper are great at, and Rhinoceros or Rhino inside, is really good at 3D geometry. But there's a lot of components that don't exist for documentation and so on. You remember that tab I showed you? I'll show you a little later. But Dynamo is very good at 2D elements, dimensions, text, right? So if you think about how these two can work together, think about their strengths, right? Then here's Dynamo on the right, changing text notes to uppercase, right? Very good to do that. Maybe you have a bunch of, if you're structural engineering, you have a bunch of generic notes, or maybe a bunch of a bunch of text notes across your entire project, and you need to all kick to uppercase. These nodes right here, if you're not familiar with Dynamo, will do that. Okay, if you're not familiar with Dynamo, Dynamo is a visual programming language as well. It comes with Revit. It's basically boxes and wires. But with these 5 nodes, you can change all your text notes to uppercase, okay, if you want to do that. All right. It does other things. It talks with the Revit database really well. Why? Because it's been doing it for 8 years. Okay. So if we can think about that, also a lot of companies, and maybe we can give like a smiley face or a thumbs up. How many of you use Dynamo in your office right now to interact with Revit in some way? Anyone load me up here? Yeah, Peter. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm saying, yeah, I wish. Okay, good. At least a little bit, right? And you've probably already created workflows for it, right? So I'm not saying toss it all out the window. I'm not saying that. Think about how they could be worked together. I will help guide you to kind of think about how you can do that. Okay. Is the idea to complement Dynamo with Rhino inside? Yes, that's right, Professor. Professor Ari likes to jump right to the conclusion. You got to let me give my little song and dance here. But yes, that's where we're going. Absolutely. Totally. It's totally where we're going. Okay, so think about their strengths. Okay. Now think about this. Okay, Grasshopper. I showed you the Revit tab inside of Grasshopper. There are about 206 components right now. One of them would be, any guesses? I just went over them. Can anyone tell me what one of these 206 are based on what I showed you? Tell me one of them. I showed you a few already, right? Topography, yes, add topography. Give me one more because I know you were listening. Give me one more of the 206. Floors, yes, add floor, Nick. Okay, very good. Okay, so that's 204 to go. All right, who's next? No, I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna do all 200. The point is there's 204, which is not a whole lot. They all focus around geometry. Okay, take my word for it for the most part. Dynamo, there are thousands and thousands of components, right? Thousands. If you include all the packages out there, I mean, I have a package at Dynamo right now called Simplex. That has 1,600 nodes alone, okay? So there's a lot, right? So let's kind of think about how we could have them complement each other. All right, so if you have 206 here, there's probably something that you need that you don't have as you're starting to look at this technology, okay? So one option, and I didn't mention this earlier, is you can create your own Okay, did I get a smiley face if someone followed me on that? There is no out-of-the-box Rhino Inside Revit component right now that can change the text on text notes inside of Revit. Anyone follow me on what I just said there? There's no out-of-the-box. Anyone? Yeah, okay, good. Now, you have an option. You could make one yourself, and I did it here with the C# component, right? And it's not that hard, actually. Just some code, just some code down here. No biggie. I mean, not a big deal. Maybe a little few references here and some code. This is C#, right? Bang, you can do it, right? Or anyone else? What else could you do? Or you can use a Python script. I'm sorry. Yes, for all the Python users, you can use a custom Python script or a custom C# script. Yes, Python, C#, absolutely. Sorry, Professor Ari. Yes, totally. Or what else could we do? Any thoughts on what we could do? Any other option here for us? If we wanted to use Rhino Inside Revit technology and we need to change our text notes to uppercase, say, or we need to change the text in some way. And we see that Rhino inside Revit, the Grasshopper component, the Grasshopper tab, out of those 206 don't have it. What could we do? Dynamo. Yes, we can use Dynamo. Of course we can use Dynamo, right? Dynamo's been around for almost 8 years, right? There's one right here, text note. You can add one, you can change the text. This actually adds the text, but you can change it, right? So this is the way you need to be thinking about this. As you go through, think about what limits you have, right? Or you can use Excel, sure. Think about what limits you have with Rhino inside Revit. Limits. Think about all the awesomeness you have right here, 206. Think about the awesomeness that's there, okay? If you need something else, why don't you just look to your buddy, Dynamo, okay? And so let's go over one scenario that I've used before, and then this will start to kind of open up your thought process on how you might be able to use this. Do I have 5 more minutes?
Sure.
Okay, so let's talk about that curved wall, right? In this particular curved wall, let's just talk about Revit. If we had a curved surface inside of Revit, how's one way we could build a wall, a curved wall? In Revit, forget Rhino inside existed. How could we do that? We have a curved surface inside of Revit. Wall by curve, okay, wall by curve could work. Let's say it's sloping also. Yeah, you guys, okay. What if it's sloping? Yeah, mass. And then what do we do if we have a mass, curved mass? What do we do to get a wall? Slanted walls. Oh, there are slanted walls now. Okay, fine. What if it's all chopped up? Come on now. Wall by face. There we go, Ian. Thank you. You can use wall by face. Okay, and that's probably what I would use if I had a surface like this, is wall by face. Okay, guess what? Guess what Rhino inside Revit at the moment does not have out of the box? Anyone? Wall by face. Wall by face. Wall by face. Okay, so what could we do? We could look to Dynamo to help us, okay? And I've done this already. All right, so we say we have a rhinoceros model and a curved wall, okay? What we can do is you can use Grasshopper to take that surface, that BREP in rhinoceros. You can pass it to this thing called new component family. You can assign it, and I did mass. If you don't want to use mass, you can use adaptive component or whatever. This is just one example. So everyone just take it easy, hang on a second, right? It'll actually build a new family and stick that BREP surface in the family template, the mass family template, okay? Now it's a mass family that was created by mass family template from Rhino inside Revit that's holding that BREP surface, okay? Then you can use this one called add component, and it'll actually place that family inside of Revit. That's all Grasshopper out of the box. Boom, there it is. Now your mass surface is inside of Revit, placed via Rhino inside Revit. Everyone follow me so far with that? That's one thing you can do. Start it, right? Now at this point, you can say, I'm going to use wall by face. Do you remember how we had like add topography, add floor? There is no add wall by face. I mean, maybe they'll add one, but there's not one right now. So what do you think we could do now? What could we use? We could use our friend, Dynamo, right? So we got Grasshopper on this side and Dynamo on this side. Okay, so we use Dynamo. Right there. Boom. Dynamo has got wall by face. It's had it for a while. Okay. There it is. Boom. You take that surface, right? It grabs the surface. However you select it, you can select it programmatically. It doesn't have to be like a manual select. And boom. Then all of a sudden, wham, it adds it on. Okay. So what are we doing here? I will summarize. Basically, where you can reimagine how to have these two work together is you can think about rhinoceros and all of its strengths and weaknesses. Let's call it strengths. Let's call it strengths, right? You got Revit in the middle and you got Dynamo over here, right? And they can work together to kind of fill the voids that one or the other may not have, right? Okay. Is the mass within the mass family template enabled within Revit via SAT geometry? Ooh, that's a good in-depth question. Ian, let's chat later on that one. That one requires a bit more explanation. Is everyone clear? Ian, that's a good question. Maybe we'll chat later, or you can email me. We'll talk about that later. But that's a good question. Like, how does it manifest itself inside the family? The point is it's in the family, and you do have a lot of freedom when it's inside a family template, and it gives you a lot of freedom. I tend to use this method, by the way, everybody. I tend to use this new component family to bring geometry over when the components are small inside, and when the geometry is small, it's inside of rhinoceros, like a bench, maybe a Corinthian column, something like that. I'll tend to put that inside of a family template and then stick it into Revit typically. Okay, so then that's it. Okay, finally, here we go. How about this? Not only can we talk about the software that work together, we need to talk about the users working together. Okay, now I need a little survey here. How many people have separate users? It could be the same person. How many typically have separate users that will do the rhinoceros? Let's just say typical, and then we'll typically do the Revit. You have kind of dedicated teams. This is the design team. This is the documentation production team. Anybody? No one. Come on. Anybody? Maybe. Separate, okay, for sure. Yes, 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 80%. You know, there's hybrids, of course, right? Separate, solve, wall by curve, good, another wall by curve. I need to simplify a spline, wall by curve questions. Ooh, I love it. Okay, professor, well, email me, we'll talk later about that. Often separate users. Okay, is everyone on board with this? You will not be able to make this tech work unless you get the users to work together. And how do you get them to work together? The same thing. You look at their strengths, you look at their weaknesses. Everyone see that last one? I know I'm running out of time, so I gotta speed through this. It's attitude, right? So you gotta make sure they're proactively working together. If I had more time, I'd go through this. I had this little comic strip thing, but anyway, everyone get the idea. This is a common thing in our industry. Even in structural engineering, you tend to have structural engineers, and they have their own analytical models and software. And then you have the BIM production team who tends not to be traditionally engineers. But anyway, so this is kind of a common theme where these, not only the software work together, you need the individuals to work together. So just think about that as you move forward, right? So so that's what I just said. How do you got to make that work together? Okay, so what if there's a problem, right? What if geometry goes over from rhinoceros into Revit and it's incorrect, right? What anyone ever see this? There's no room in AEC for this. No room. There's no room for this. Everyone knows what this is, right? No one? Anyone know what this means? I still got 96 people in here. Yeah, there you go. Right? No room for this. Okay. So before you get the tech in line, you need to get the users in line. So let's think about what I have seen in the past personally is this. Right? I've seen this. I've seen this. I've seen this. I've seen, and I'm not picking on Revit users or Rhino users or one being better than the other. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I've seen these kind of X scenarios, where one will say it's a software problem, it's a Revit problem, it's a rhinoceros problem, right? It's not, and then hey, let me fix the model, right? And then do you ever get this? Don't touch my model, right? I don't know. Whatever, right? There's no room for this. Rhinoceros user with limitations. If you're modeling keyholes, are the keyholes going to come through inside of Revit? Maybe not. I don't know. But you need to have those proactive conversations, right? So that's all they're saying here. Let's work together. So and I know everyone's here. What shall be worked out in BIM? Sure, and beyond. Very good. Thank you, Peter. And everyone's responsible for everyone's problem, right? Not just one person. Everyone's problem. Okay. And finally, this is where we want to be, right? This is where we want to be. Yeah, let's work together, right? Let's work together in advance. Yes. Let's work together in advance. Yes. Right? Do you know how to solve AEC's software's problems? The cure. You know what the cure is? for it. It's unconditional love. That's what it is. Okay. So everyone just needs to work together. Right. Okay. Finally, you've kind of seen these things side by side, so Rhino inside Revit can do some other, typically does geometry and it can build elements, but there is some overlap. Dynamo's on the right, Grasshopper, Rhino inside Revit is on the left. You can build levels. You can get and set parameters by both of them. So if you enjoy these kind of side by sides and thinking about working it together, I have written a book called the Dynamo and Grasshopper Revit Cheat Sheet Manual. A lot of these examples are in there. If you head over to the website, I think someone posted it on there. Here it is, AEC Cheat Sheets. You can check it out. This is not a shameless plug for the book, but I'm telling you, if you do like these formats, they all are kind of in there. It is available now in different formats. In there, you'll get these kind of side-by-side examples and equivalents. If you're not familiar with Grasshopper and you want to learn, and you know Dynamo and you want to learn Grasshopper, or you know Grasshopper, you want to know Dynamo, or you just want to see how they kind of the equivalents of each one of them. The book has over 250 examples in there. It's also indexed as well. Okay, and so with that, I want to thank everyone for being here.
You were going to say the promo code was unconditional love, but it's the one that you seem to point out.
Try that though.
I'm sure we have tons of questions, so happy to entertain them. I see a lot of people signing off, which is also perfectly fine. Marcelo, would you be willing to entertain some more questions?
Yes, I can stick around just for a bit and I can entertain some questions.
I think most of you are muted, so if you do want to ask a question, please be sure to unmute yourself, or you can put it in the chat window. I know that we had an attendance limit issue with the Zoom, so I also put a comment in the meetup event page. So if there were colleagues or you're in contact with your colleagues who aren't in the meeting, if they want to ask a question there, that's certainly a possibility as well. Oh,
Okay, we got one from Christoph. Let's give it a second to read.
Oh, I can see it. Biggest, okay. You want me to help out here? I can see it.
Go for it.
Big issue I have,
go.
I'm using. Okay, I'll rephrase the question, Christoph. The question was, currently right now, let me back up. Currently right now, the Rhino, not Rhinoceros 7, the Rhino inside Revit plugin is still in beta. So they're still adding functions to it. They're still massaging it a bit. So if you have a problem using, well, you know what I say about beta versions, quite honestly, just to tell you that, is don't we use beta versions all the time in AEC? They're called schematics, right? So we have issues with beta versions, to kind of think about how we work, right? Because things constantly change all the time. But it's in beta, so they're adding things. One thing they're working out right now is something called element binding. And Christoph was kind of alluding to this in his question, is that when you create an element, say topography, and then you create Well, me personally, I have seen, it depends on the scenario. I've seen it kind of both ways. So I'm not here to kind of judge Dynamo and Grasshopper, I knew, there's a big Dynamo Grasshopper kind of discussion out there, which one's better. I'm not here to say that. What I'm here to do is show you, and you make the decisions yourself. So I would encourage you, where did that question come from? I would encourage you to build large things with Rhino inside Revit using Grasshopper, build Grasshopper inside, build large things using Dynamo and make the judgment for yourself. I'm not saying use Rhino inside Revit all the time. I'm not saying use Dynamo all the time. I'm just saying keep them in your back pocket, left and right now. And anytime you need help, bring them out and then see if they can help with your Revit production or your office production. That's what I'm saying. Can Rhino inside Revit and Dynamo simultaneously? That's a good question. I'll tell you how it works is you could have a Revit model open, you could have Dynamo attached to that Revit model, and you could have Rhino inside Revit attached to that same Revit model. And I kind of alluded to that in this graphic. I tried to summarize it here really quick, but this is kind of it. Is you can have them kind of open and working at the same time. Yes. All right. A question was about passing element IDs. Sure. If you want to pass element IDs, you could do that. Absolutely. Questions on Speckle. This is the conversation here. I'm focusing on Rhino inside Revit and Dynamo. That's where this whole talk is. So Speckle is a bit off topic because we are talking about interoperability between these two softwares. So this is the workflow I would recommend you consider thinking about, the one on the screen. If you want to pass information to other places and back in and whatever using Speckle or some other type of software, I don't discourage that at all. I'm just saying if you want to think about this workflow, this is how you can be successful at it. MicroStation, is that a question? I see MicroStation in all caps. Oh, wait, no, I don't know where to go with that one, Peter. MicroStation obsolete. You want to have more theoretical discussions. You know what we need to do, Bob and Andre, is we need to bring everybody back, and we'll bring all the academia, and let's have an academic discussion about some of these topics, because I think that's kind of where they flow. I mean, if you kind of learn through this talk, it's like I've got a problem, I need to solve it now. So that's kind of where the talk is here. But if you want to have those discussions about what about this software, is it obsolete, using that software, that I'm totally up for that. Just it was a little more difficult.
We usually do that in 20 minutes from now over a beer downstairs at the bar.
Yeah, that's where it happens.
That is the problem of the Zoom. Usually we snuff those and say, let's go downstairs, have a beer, and hash about those things and vent about the new BIM 360 that doesn't work and whatever else it is, right?
I think my overall point here, and the one reason where I'm at is just kind of keeping a positive attitude about anything you're trying. I like to think of Rhino inside Revit as well as Dynamo when it came, is like presents. They're presents, so they're gifts. So I tend to look at it that way, and then I kind of say, okay, how can I use this gift? How can I keep a positive attitude about using the most out of it, that sort of thing. Okay, do you know a good resource to point when people want to get Rhino inside Revit for the first time? Good YouTube video or something? I'm going to say Google. Google it, you'll start it. Yeah, certainly it'll give you the McNeil website, the Rhino website will also get you a good place to start as well, kind of like what is it? Thank you, Angela, for that question. I saw a theoretical one way up there. Oh, it was about curve. It was about geometry. Maybe I should bring. Peter had a question about like wall splines, and let me just say this: Rhinoceros uses NURBS formulation typically for their geometry. Revit does not. If you're using a massing or adapting component in Revit, they use something called Hermite splines. So there has to be some quote unquote conversion from one basic language to the other. And sometimes you need to, massage that relationship a bit to make it work, though I haven't found any major issues there. Thank you, Angela. Here we go. Yep, rhino3d.com is a good place to start. Yep, those folks at McNeil did a great job, as well as Autodesk working to get these two things trying to solve our interoperability issues. Okay. I think maybe if there's more questions, maybe push them through the comments, pass them through Robert and your great folks at New York Rug. I certainly can answer them and pass them back, and we can continue the conversation.
What time is it? Yeah.
Let me just check the
Sound good?
meetup thread.
Marcel, thank you for the functions inside. I got this one. Are any functions inside that addresses face normal? Been trying to import a large amount of panels with specific normal. Just want to see if Dynamo or Grasshopper can address this. Wow, that's a good question. That's really in the weeds. Well, Grasshopper and Dynamo both have the ability to analyze surfaces and surface normals. I call them advanced geometry analytics. I go through that in actually the middle part of the book, beginning middle part of the book. But there's also good sites about 3D generic geometry and what Grasshopper geometry can do and what Dynamo geometry can do. You could kind of make that judgment for yourself. But with this new tech, you can kind of you can choose, because they're all running inside of Revit now, which is really awesome. Maybe you can share some specific examples with Bob there, with the great folks and Andre, great folks at New York Rug. We can talk more about it. Good. Okay, one more. Theoretically, could one snapshot a Revit model to a Rhino twin that updates at key phases? You're going from Revit to Rhinoceros, Revit to Rhinoceros, Revit to Rhinoceros. Yes, in theory you could. Yes. You would just manipulate grabbing the phase, pulling the geometry in, getting it in the right location in Rhinoceros. Maybe that's a layer. Maybe that's a no-pick environment. Maybe it's no-show environment. But yes, certainly in theory you could do that. Good question. Yeah. Anyway, I'll leave it there.
All right, excellent. We're just about an hour 10 or so into this with you. I think this was absolutely marvelous. Thank you so much, Marcelo. I think we will eventually pester you again and have you back in a similar forum for more insights.
Certainly.
And thank you everybody for attending, for making this such a marvelously successful event. Thank you for all the questions. If anybody has hit our ceiling, please extend our deepest apologies. We will obviously post this online. It will be arriving within a day or two, I hope, on YouTube. We will send around the link to everybody who is on the sign-up list here for this event, so that we make sure everybody gets this. I did not make that connection. We usually have 30, 40 people, right? I did not make the connection that, Zoom meeting has a ceiling and, this probably should have been rolled over into a webinar. You live and you learn, right?
Blew us out of the water.
Yeah. All that success here, I mean, seriously, what are you doing to us?
Also, special thanks to you, Marcelo. You're on vacation.
Yes, if it's still online, I will show you.
You're on
I
vacation.
will show you my view. Look at this. That's outside my window.
That's outside your window and you're looking at us. So thank you.
Right.
For that.
No problem. The show must go on anytime. You're excellent folks over there at New York Rug. Be happy.
Well, I guess that's it. Thanks, everyone. Really, I'm really thrilled with the attendance that we had. I'm really thrilled that, Marcelo, we could finally have you come in, and I can't wait until you come back,
Yeah,
whether
certainly.
it's virtually or in person. We're
Okay.
happy
Yeah.
to have you either way.
Thank you. I'll take you up on the invitation. Thank you, everybody, for having me.
Thank you so much. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care, everyone. Thanks again.